Hello everybody, it's Alex here from RPGsite.net, just with a little quick video about Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness, or Star Ocean 5, which I actually got to go and play at Square's European offices just a couple of days ago now. Obviously this game is out in Japan, there are import reviews out there, there's actually a great preview from one of our Japanese contributors up on RPGsite.net if you want to read about the game in detail. But I just wanted to, because I got to play the English version a little bit before launch, wanted to talk a little bit about what jumped out at me about the game, and the main thing really is the combat. So I'm going to try and keep this video relatively short, but I just wanted to talk about how much I enjoyed that. So my hands-on was split into two halves. The first half was basically the opening of the game, me pressing new game and going up until a certain point. And that was interesting because the game is stripped back compared to a lot of Japanese RPGs. It doesn't hold you back for ages and ages. It doesn't have lots of cutscenes. It just sort of throws you in, and within 5 minutes you're in a combat situation basically, which I really enjoyed. And in general it seems like this game will have that stripped back. There's a lot less cutscenes and a lot more characters just talking to each other as you walk around. And then on that topic, the second half of the hands-on was from much later in the game. The save file I loaded, I think, had somewhere in the region of 25 to 30 hours on it already. And that was at a point when all 7 party members were available to me, and I was on a spaceship, not just on a planet, and the characters were decently high level, and I got to experiment with the combat system. The thing that's amazing about it when you get to that point is that you have all 7 characters on the field all at once, and it's a seamless transition from field running around to battle combat gameplay. So you've got this huge gang that are just walking around battering everything that is hostile, and it looks really cool, and the characters all have very, very colourful costumes that really stand out. Character design, by the way, by the legendary Akiman, who did the Street Fighter 2 characters, and they have a similar sort of quality to them where there's some great character silhouettes and great use of colour to make everybody distinct, which I really like. But yeah, when you've got all 7 people, it pops off in a big way, and there's lots of spells flying around and all that stuff, and it looks awesome, but also doesn't look, overwhelming, and the performance doesn't drop. On the topic of performance, it makes sense to mention that this obviously was a PlayStation 3 and 4 game in Japan, and it's only a PlayStation 4 game here. But in a sense, that actually seems to benefit it in a weird way, because it is this anime art style, so it is a bit more simplistic than something like a Final Fantasy 15, and it just means they can have all those 7 characters on screen, loads of stuff going on, and it still maintains a lovely, silky smooth 60 frames a second, which is excellent. So what is it about the combat other than the number of people you can play as and have in your party, because you can obviously switch between them all as well on the fly? What is it that I enjoy? I guess it's the simplicity. So you basically have a guard, a light attack, and a heavy attack, and they work in a sort of rock, paper, scissors fashion where one beats the other, and it's really, really simple. You have special moves that you assign to each of those, so then holding light attack will execute the special move that's attached to it, whereas just pressing light attack will just do a light attack. Then there's combinations you can do and all that sort of stuff, and there's AI sequences you can set on your party members to actually have them do specific things, to have them weaken enemies in specific ways, or it's not quite, Final Fantasy 12 gambits, but it seems like it's going to be something that has a decent amount of depth there. And I really just like the look of it. There's a rhythmic style to it where you're pressing buttons in a rhythmic fashion, but it's not strict because I obviously want it to be friendly to people who aren't as used to action games. And it felt pretty good. 2 hours is obviously difficult to judge. You play 2 hours of something and then it's a 40-hour game, and you could play it when it's 40 hours and think, oh my god, this sucks, because what is there isn't enough to support a 40-hour game. But from my 2 hours, I'm fully prepared and ready and looking forward to playing more of this combat. One of the things I didn't really get to do was play properly very much as the other party members, and they all obviously have different skills and abilities. There's like a monk lady who I barely used, who seems to be particularly cool, so I look forward to getting stuck into that in the final game. I think, as I said, it looks really good. I do think the environments are a bit flat. So, you know, I went out into a plains area, and it's Final Fantasy 13-esque when you reach Pulse, and it's a beautiful big open area, but everything is a flat texture. You know, the ground, there's no grass or anything like that. And there are shades of that here, because of course this is technically a PS3 game as well as a PS4 game, but I still think it looks pretty good, and I think the characters in particular, we've reached a point with these anime art styles where they do just kind of look like dolls come to life, and not necessarily in a creepy, uncanny valley way, but in a way that looks quite good. So yeah, I really like the way it looks. I'm really liking the look and feel of the combat. The music is as great as it always is in Star Ocean. I've got a slight issue with the way the music fades in and out when you enter an exit battle. It just doesn't feel very climactic, but I understand how it's ended up like that, because it is this seamless transition. It's more difficult to do a transition that makes sense in that way for the music. But yeah, it was a fun 2 hours. I'm really looking forward to playing the final thing now. I really like the look and feel of the combat. It feels like, and this is probably the highest praise I can give this, in a time when many Japanese RPGs are looking towards Western games and trying to take on more action-based systems, either to appeal to Western markets or just because they want to. This game, it feels like it does that sort of without a worry, without a care in the world. It just sort of works for them. I guess, you know, Star Ocean has had a head start because it's always been an action-based series. Even back on the Super Nintendo in 1996, the original game was an action RPG. But it feels like, when I play it, you know, the rhythmic style of it was evoking things like the combat of Fable 2 to me. But at the same time, it feels like a Super Nintendo RPG in a weird way, or a PlayStation 1 RPG in a weird way. It seems to carry the spirit of those games, and so I really enjoyed it. Now, obviously I should say, I haven't played the full version. I understand from import stuff and Japanese impressions and all that sort of thing that there are definitely issues with this game. I've seen mentioned from people who've played the Japanese version issues with the length of the game, because apparently it's a little on the short side for the core story, although there supposedly is a lot of side content as well. Some people have taken issue with some of the things that were changed, because there was some minor censorship stuff, and, you know, some people just don't think it was very hard. There are 3 difficulty levels in this, but you do have to beat the game on normal to get the hardest one, which sort of sucks if the game is actually going to be relatively easy. But then again, you know, in this demo, I got put into a hard boss on that second half of the gameplay, and I got absolutely crushed by it, so I don't think it's easy all the way through. Or maybe I was under-leveled, it's hard to say. So, yeah, that's Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness, which doesn't have 5 in the title, but it is the 5th main Star Ocean game. In my feelings from the Star Ocean games I've played, it feels like it's a middle ground between Star Ocean 4, which I really enjoyed, but I understand it was a divisive game, and Star Ocean 3, which I know is much more loved. And it feels like a middle ground between those two, and hopefully that will make fans quite happy. So yeah, that's Star Ocean 5. It's going to be out in very late June in the States and very start of July in Europe, and I'm really looking forward to getting stuck in with the final version. So yeah, if you want to check out the preview based on the Japanese version, please do check out rpgsite.net, and if you enjoy this, don't forget to give us a like, a subscribe, and all that jazz. So until next time, see ya.